Last Breath is the thriller survival movie based on the true story of a small team of deep sea saturation divers who are on a mission underseas when something goes horribly wrong and one of their teammates is in a life or death situation. This movie is directed by Alex Parkinson, and it's starring Woody Harrelson, Simu Liu, and Finn Cole, who plays Chris Lemons, which is the main diver based on the real person that this movie is about. This movie will really make you appreciate having a safe, normal job above land. I really watched this and was just kind of on the edge of my seat through most of the movie. If you're familiar with saturation diving, this is a form of deep sea underwater diving. It's generally done about 500 to 1,000 feet below the surface. They live and work in a pressurized tank, basically, and they use this gas called heliox, which is lighter than air. And so they don't have to decompress every time they come back up. They generally will work in this state for about a month, and they can go up and down from the seafloor into this small metal structure called the bell, and then they can decompress when the job is done. So that's essentially the safest, most efficient way that they do this. But it's pretty interesting. There is a documentary by the same name that came out a while back that is also about Chris Lemons and his amazing survival story. At its heart, I think this movie is really about the spirit of teamwork, surviving a life and death situation, and not giving up hope. There's a lot of other themes you could probably draw from this, but this movie and Chris Lemons' story is very inspirational, and it's honestly unbelievable what actually happened. Chris was diving underseas with a small team of 3. These are seasoned divers. They know what they're doing. Generally, these guys are in these very heavy-duty suits. They have an umbilical that's connecting the gas to them, and that's their slack. They're attached to like a much bigger ship of the seas. There's an accident, and Chris's line gets snagged and cut, and the ship is pulling away because there's a really severe storm above the surface. And very quickly, he is faced with a situation that he has almost no chance of surviving. And his line is cut away. All he has is the remaining air that is in his suit. I think it's maybe less than 10 minutes. And he is trying to get back on top of this large structure they were working on when another diver says, "Look, I'm going to come back for you. You have to get back on top of this structure." I think they call it the manifold. That's what he has to do. But then how is he going to survive? He has a very small amount of air. There's no telling the other divers in the ship are going to be able to come back. And then the other diver, who's played by Simu Liu, does a great job. How is he going to find him? You can barely see anything. They have no real tools. He has to find this guy's body in almost the pitch dark, very small light, somehow hope that he's not dead yet, and they have to do all of this probably in under the next 3 to 5 minutes. You all know it's virtually impossible to survive for more than 5 or 6 minutes before you have severe brain damage and you're basically dead. This whole movie, start to finish, is the amazing story of Chris. It's showing the setup, it's showing this team and kind of everybody's personality. The small team of 3 experienced divers are going to the bottom, and then the accident happens. So the whole next half of the movie, you're trying to figure out what's going to happen. Chris runs out of air very quickly. They show a timer that's showing his remaining oxygen. And then after that runs out, the movie shows a timer periodically about how long he has been trapped down there with no air. So if you're on the edge of your seat, you don't know what's going to happen. And even the team is like, hey, if we're lucky enough to even find his body somehow, they got to get the ship back in the right spot. There's a storm going on. They're basically, eventually, they're saying, unfortunately, this is going to be a body recovery. And logically, statistically, there is no way we can save this guy because there's no way he's going to survive that long without air. Miraculously, Chris Lemons survived with no permanent damage of any kind, no brain damage, no physical impairments. He survived. They found him. He was rescued, and he went almost 30 full minutes undersea, trapped in his suit, trapped at 1,000 feet below with no air. You heard that right. Almost 30 full minutes without air. I genuinely don't know how that was possible. No one ever did. To this day, doctors, experts, they do not ever have a theory of how he survived. Their best guess was something that it had to do with maybe the pressure and lower temperatures, and maybe somehow between his internal organs, his brain, his lungs, the air that he had in his body, somehow that maybe got him more time. But there's no way he should have ever made anything close to that. He would have been lucky to make it more than 3 or 4 minutes without air, like most people would. So the fact that he went almost a full half hour with no oxygen when he was basically lying unconscious 1,000 feet below sea level is honestly incredible. What is more incredible than that is 3 weeks after this incident, he and his team went back down again and they finished the job they originally started. I don't really know what's more inspirational than that in a story like this. It really puts things in perspective. It really shows you just the admiration, the determination, how much these guys really believed in themselves, how much they loved what they did. And even after a situation like that where he certainly should have died, he didn't let it stop him. Pretty much anyone would have thrown in the towel. They would have said, hey, that's it. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to find something else that's safer. And just a few weeks after that, he and his team went down again and he finished the job. Main three actors all did a great job. Woody Harrelson, as always, is great. He's kind of the older chief diver who's the one that stays in the bell, and he's feeding the guys their slack. It's really about Finn Cole as Chris Lemons, and then Simu Liu, who plays the other diver, who is kind of this hard-nosed guy, but he ends up being the one that comes back for him and saves him, and they're determined that they're going to get Chris back no matter what. And honestly, they all did a great job. Finn Cole did a really good job as his character, but he's unconscious most of the movie, so he doesn't get to do that much. But Simu Liu was actually really good, and you kind of see some of his character arc where it puts things in perspective for him and maybe gives him a little bit of a softer view of life and letting some love in and appreciating what he has because of this near brush with death that he firsthand experienced. I like this movie a lot. It's being really well received by critics and audiences. It's definitely worth seeing. I would definitely recommend checking out this movie. It's a great story. Actors all do a good job, and it's honestly something that you kind of have to see to believe that this actually happened to somebody and that Chris survived. That's going to do it for this review. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.